In the bitter winter of 1994, the small town of Pine Hollow, Wisconsin, was blanketed in silence and snow. 11-year-old Norah Field, a bright-spirited girl with green eyes full of quiet determination, vanished without a trace after stepping onto a substitute school bus during a citywide driver strike. That morning, no one realized it would be the last time anyone would see her. No witnesses, no vehicle, no driver. Nothing left but cold questions that haunted a town for 3 long decades. 30 years later, deep within the frost-hardened woods on the outskirts of Pine Hollow, loggers unearthed something buried in the frozen soil. It wasn't a forgotten pipeline or rusted-out tractor. It was a yellow school bus, crushed, decaying, and hidden beneath layers of snow and time. Inside, only 2 things remained: the skeleton of an adult male in a worn driver's uniform and a red plastic lunchbox, eerily preserved, still sitting quietly on one of the seats. Written in faded marker over a strip of masking tape were 6 words that struck the heart of a mystery left to rot. Norah Field, Room 6B, February 4th, 1994. This is the story of the wrong bus and the secret it carried into the cold. On February 3rd, 2024, the discovery reignited a case that had long been buried, both literally and in memory. During routine winter logging off County Road 18, the roar of machines halted as steel teeth clanged against something solid. The foreman thought it might be an old trailer or perhaps a forgotten hunting blind. But when the soil peeled back to reveal the yellow curve of a school bus roof, everything stopped. Time seemed to freeze, mirroring the bitter air around them. When Sheriff Elena Mendez arrived, the wind was razor-sharp, slicing through her scarf as she stared at the twisted frame. The back of the bus had caved in, windows either blackened by age or shattered long ago. There was no mistaking what this was. And as forensic teams worked carefully to preserve the scene, whispers from the past began to resurface. On February 4th, 1994, Norah had done what so many kids did in working-class Tiller's Grove, a part of town where parents clocked in before dawn, and children had to be a little older than their years. That Friday, bundled in her purple knit hat and thick snow pants, Norah waited alone at the corner of Finch Avenue and Alder Street. Her boots sank into the snow, her breath visible in the icy air. The usual bus, number 42, wasn't coming. They'd been warned. The strike meant chaos. But Norah didn't want to wake her mother, Dina, who had come home after a grueling double shift at the packaging plant. Her father had left years ago, a wound that never fully closed. So she stood quietly, watching for something that felt familiar. When a yellow bus crept around the corner, its windows fogged and turn signal pulsing weakly, she felt a flicker of hope. And something else. Something colder. The man behind the wheel wasn't their driver. He wore a green jacket, not the school-issued windbreaker. He had a trimmed beard and glasses, eyes fixed ahead as the doors opened with a sigh. Norah hesitated. Her instinct whispered to wait. But when the snow began falling harder, and the wind tugged at her backpack like invisible hands urging her forward, she stepped inside. Inside the bus, the heater hummed too loud, too warm, an almost suffocating contrast to the cold she had just left behind. A few other kids sat silently, faces unfamiliar, scattered like ghosts. Some older, some younger. None of them spoke. Norah chose a seat halfway back, her lunchbox resting in her lap, her eyes watching the frosted world disappear through a cloudy window. That would be the last place she was ever seen. At 7:56 a.m., the school secretary marked Norah Field absent. No one blinked. No alarms rang. By 3:20 p.m., Dina returned home to find Norah's boots missing from the porch rack. She figured her daughter had gone to a friend's house. By 6:15, that comfort cracked. By 7:02, she was dialing the police, panic unraveling her voice. That night, Officer Wyatt Kessler stood in Norah's bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of a life that should have continued. Lisa Frank Dolphins smiled from posters on her wall, a calendar filled with horse stickers, a hand-drawn map of the school's lunch menu. Her homework was neatly completed. Her pillow still held the shape of her small head. Kessler asked gently, "You're sure she left for school this morning?" Dina nodded, tears threatening to spill. "I watched her from the kitchen window. Purple hat, snow pants. She said she'd figure it out. I told her she didn't have to go, but Norah's never missed a day." A silence filled the room, heavy, the kind that carries regret. The time between 7:40 and 7:50 a.m. became the black hole, a moment so small, yet wide enough to swallow a child whole. Flyers went up, pink hats turned to memory, and the story of a missing girl slipped into the shadows of what-ifs. No one remembered seeing her at school. The chaos of the strike had scrambled everything. Substitute bus logs were patchy. Some were half-filled, others completely blank. One listed Route 12X. 7 picked up, 0 dropped off. No names, no return entries. Rumors filled the void. She ran away. She never got on the bus. She was taken before she even left the street. But none of them explained why her lunchbox, her hat, her boots, items a child never parts with, had never surfaced. It was as if Norah had been lifted from the earth. Now, in 2024, that silence was cracked open. Inside the recovered bus, forensic teams uncovered the remains of one man in the driver's seat, mummified in a green jacket, hands still resting on the wheel. On the third row, left-hand side, a red plastic lunchbox sat untouched. Inside, a bruised apple, a Capri Sun pouch, and a folded permission slip for the upcoming science fair dated February 7th, 1994. The zipper still worked. The contents frozen in time, but no body, no clothing, no trace of a child. Just one object, quietly waiting. The VIN number had been scraped off and scorched. No license plate, no identifying records. Only twisted metal and a storm of questions. Sheriff Mendez stood by the open side door, wind howling through the trees like the echo of something lost. Her gloved hand gripped her radio. The case wasn't just reopened. It had never truly been closed. What happened on that bus? And where did Norah Field go? The crime scene lights bathed the trees in a ghostly shimmer, turning the snow into a canvas of silent witnesses. Inside the bus, the driver's corpse, once frozen in time behind the wheel, was now carefully sealed in a black body bag, lifted with quiet reverence by the medical examiner's team. His skeletal frame told no stories, but the truth was beginning to whisper through the cracks of the past. The red lunchbox, however, remained. It sat like a relic, preserved in an evidence bag, cradled by gloved hands. Sheriff Elena Mendez stared at it for a long, heavy moment. Her breath steamed in the frigid air as her voice cut through the static on her radio. "Pull everything we have on the Norah Field case. I want the full file, every page, every photograph, and find out who the hell was assigned to drive Route 12X that day." At the Pine Hollow Police Department, buried deep in the evidence room's cold storage, case file 94-0212 Field, Norah was unearthed from decades of dust. It was a time capsule of a tragedy. Faded Polaroids, yellowing witness statements, pages typed on clunky old Smith Corona machines. Detective Emery Pratt spread it out across the table like a sacred ritual. He flipped through it slowly, methodically, searching for the name that never made it into the story. The substitute driver logs from February 1994 were a mess. Scratched notes, ink smears, missing signatures. One entry, however, stood out like a fracture. Route 12X, time out, 7:43 a.m. Students, 7. Driver, blank. Notes, did not return to depot. Pratt leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. He just took it, he murmured to himself. The 1994 strike had created the perfect storm. Substitute drivers pulled from neighboring counties, hastily recruited. Background checks skipped. No GPS, no cameras. Just trust and clipboards. Someone had weaponized the chaos and driven straight into the darkness. Meanwhile, at the State Forensics Lab in Madison, Dr. Marianne Coulter removed her headset and studied the skeletal remains. Male, Caucasian, between 50 to 60 years old, height approximately 5 feet 10 inches. Time of death, likely within a week of Norah's disappearance. Suspected cranial trauma. No ID, only personal item, a brass locker key marked J26, a key to a mystery still locked tight. Back in Pine Hollow, Emery studied the photo of the key. "What's J26? Coulter replied. "Locker, maybe. Storage unit. Not school-issued. Doesn't match any facility in town. That ghost of a man. They couldn't trace him. No dental matches, no fingerprints in any system. He wasn't from Pine Hollow. He wasn't from anywhere. But the story had found its breath again. That same day, local news stations erupted. Breaking buried school bus discovered, linked to 1994 missing child case. Across Wisconsin, screens flickered with Norah's photo, her small smile from a time when she believed in safety and structure. In her one-bedroom apartment, Norah Field clutched her coffee mug until her hands ached. She hadn't spoken Norah's name aloud in over a decade. Grief had taught her silence, how to endure the unbearable by pretending it never happened. But seeing the lunchbox again, her own handwriting scrawled across the masking tape, cracked something open in her. She picked up the phone. "I'm ready to talk," she said. In interview room B, Detective Pratt laid a photo of the lunchbox on the table. "Is this the one Norah took that day?" Dina's voice wavered. "Peanut butter and banana. She hated jelly. Said it made the bread slimy." He slid another photo across. The body, cropped, respectful, but final. She stared, her eyes widening. "That's not our driver. That's not Mr. Hellberg. He wore a blue jacket. He had a badge." "What would Norah have done?" Pratt asked softly. "If someone else, someone unfamiliar, showed up in a bus?" "She'd trust him," Dina said. Her voice fell to a whisper. She always wanted to be polite. She never wanted to make anyone feel bad. 3 days later, the key led them to an abandoned storage facility near Janesville, 80 miles from Pine Hollow. It had been condemned in 2003 after severe flooding. Unit J26 was registered to Donnie Ray Schultz, a fake name paid in cash. It had remained untouched since 1995. Armed with a warrant and a crowbar, Sheriff Mendes and Detective Pratt forced the rusted door open. The air inside smelled of mildew, old wood, and the residue of forgotten years. The light from their flashlight swept across a twin mattress, rotted and sunken. Crates filled with VHS tapes, a child's gray coat with pink lining, and then, taped to the wall, an old newspaper clipping. Norah Field still missing after 2 months. But it was the photo that froze them both. Norah, standing in front of the yellow bus, her smile faint, her lunchbox dangling at her side. Behind her, glasses, a beard, the green jacket, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. On the back, scrawled in black marker, Day 1. She's perfect. By the time CSU arrived to process the scene, the room had become a mausoleum of stolen years. They cataloged everything. Each milk crate labeled meticulously, Volume 1 to 20, Volume 21 to 40. None were opened yet. But one small plastic box hidden beneath the mattress held 4 used cassette tapes, each labeled in neat handwriting, N1, N2, N3, N4. The tapes were rushed to the AV lab in Madison. They would not be played until cleared by trauma professionals. Back in Pine Hollow, Elena and Emery sat across from Dina once again. The apartment hadn't changed much. The walls held framed landscapes and dusty photos of a life paused mid-sentence. She looked older, but not broken, just thinned by time. They didn't show her the tapes, but they handed her something else, a spiral notebook. Sleep schedule, week 1. Norah wakes, 6:02 a.m. Lights off, 9 p.m. cereal, apple juice, cold, not warm. No talking after 8 p.m. Brush teeth. Supervised. Movie time. Reward behavior. Do not discuss parents. If questions persist, increase. Phase 2. Audio. Dinah's hands trembled as she turned the pages. Each entry felt sterile, like the documentation of a lab experiment, not a little girl's life. "Is this real?" she whispered. "Is this what he did to her?" Emery's voice cracked slightly. "We believe she was kept somewhere remote. This confirms extended captivity. We just don't know for how long." Her eyes filled with tears. "How long was my daughter alive?" There was no answer. That evening, in a secure viewing room monitored by trauma specialists, the first tape was played. It began with static. Then, a male voice. "Okay, sweetheart, say your name for me." A pause. A small, hesitant voice responded. "Norah." "Louder," the man's voice insisted, coded in saccharine authority. "Norah Field," came the girl's soft reply. "Good girl. Now say it the way I taught you." A pause. "Norah Schultz." Then, silence. A shuffle of movement followed. A toy piano clinked somewhere in the background, childlike, out of place, like an echo from a room that should never have existed. "What does Daddy say?" The man prompted again, his voice now lower, almost coaxing. "Daddy says the world outside is broken," Norah whispered. "And I'm safe here." This wasn't a conversation. It was indoctrination. In the weeks that followed, more tapes were recovered, audio and video, each piece documenting the architecture of a nightmare. Grooming, control, psychological conditioning so thorough it blurred the boundaries between survival and surrender. The files painted a chilling picture. Norah had lived. She had obeyed. She had adapted. But her body was still missing. Her fate remained buried beneath the weight of what was recorded. A voice that was scared, confused, and still alive. On February 8th, Sheriff Elena Mendez stepped to a podium under a gray winter sky. Her face was solemn, her words measured. "We are officially reclassifying the 1994 disappearance of Norah Field as an abduction in case of long-term captivity," she announced. "We believe the perpetrator impersonated a school bus driver during the 1994 strike and used this cover to lure children. Currently, the only confirmed victim is Norah Field. The man found in the buried bus has not yet been positively identified." A reporter asked the question hanging in every throat. "Is Norah still alive?" Sheriff Mendez looked up, her eyes holding a complicated truth. "We don't know, but we haven't given up hope." That same hope fueled Detective Emery Pratt, who spent the next day buried in microfilm, forgotten hiring logs, and civil complaints locked in state archives. It was tedious work. Slow, dusty, mechanical. But it paid off. Among the documents, he found a letter dated January 1994 from the school district's hiring office. Subject line: "Strike contingency. Substitute driver list." One name stood out, not typed but scrawled hastily in pen at the bottom: Donald R. Schultz. No phone number, no ID number. Checkbox, cleared, left blank. It was more than a coincidence. Donnie Ray Schultz, the name on the storage unit, wasn't just an alias. It was a fabrication written into the system by someone who knew no one would look too hard during the chaos of a strike. But what chilled Emery to the core was what he found next. In an unsolved case file from Illinois in 1989, a witness had reported a suspicious man in the area, driving a school bus that wasn't on any route. A child had vanished. A man with glasses, a beard, and a green jacket was seen. The child was never found. February 11th. A breakthrough came from an unlikely voice. A retired social worker named Margot Lent, now living in assisted care. Over the phone, her voice was raspy but sharp. "I remember him," she said. "Said he was homeschooling a niece. Came to the county office twice, never filled out paperwork, gave me a bad feeling. He said his name was Donnie something. The girl was always quiet. Too quiet." When asked why she hadn't reported it, her answer was blunt. No one believed me then. Maybe they will now. Later that day, investigators found the house. It wasn't listed on any county records. It sat like a forgotten tooth deep in the woods of Monroe County, buried under pine canopy and years of silence. The structure was nearly invisible from the sky, appearing in aerial photos only after 1995. Camouflaged, intentional. Detectives Mendes and Pratt arrived at noon. No mailbox, no path. Just a rusted cattle gate and broken signs that hinted someone had once warned the world to stay out. The house had aged poorly. Shutters hanging loose, paint stripped by time, the front step broken like a snapped bone. Inside, the air was thick with chemicals and dust. A small television sat on a wooden cart, its VCR jammed open. Newspapers dated the week Norah vanished. The man who lived here had never planned to leave, or maybe he never did. In one corner, a small mattress was placed next to a space heater. Crayon drawings covered the wall above it. One showed a yellow bus, a stick figure girl with a red lunchbox. Above it, scrawled in child's handwriting, "Daddy takes me to the trees." But what truly shattered the silence was the discovery in the back room. A door with no knob, nailed shut from the outside. When CSU pried it open, what they found was not a room. It was a cell, pink-painted walls now coated in dust. A broken light bulb, a collapsed twin bed, shelves with expired canned goods and plastic toys, a plastic bucket, no windows, no way out. And on the walls, handprints, etchings, messages carved into the baseboard with what must have been desperation and fingernails. "I miss outside. Day 434. She was here," Mendez whispered. She counted the days. In a rusted metal bin, CSU found more tapes. They were labeled differently now. Project Blossom, Phase 1, End Session 77, Behavior Mod Set 3. A black binder beneath them contained pages in plastic sleeves. Clinical, systematic, dehumanizing. Project Blossom, Developmental Conditioning. Timeline age range, 6 to 12 protocol, isolation, social redirection, substitution of parental bonding, rewarded behavior, audio reinforcement. Phase 2, the outside is broken. Phase 3, special girl, special role. Objective, emotional dependency and obedience to caretaker. Mendez read in silence, then said, "This wasn't just about Norah." "He was testing something," Emery added, his voice grim. "He was building a system." Back in Pine Hollow, Norah Field sat clutching the report. The words barely made sense, but the shape of them confirmed what her mother's instincts had always feared. Her child's pain hadn't been a spontaneous act of evil. It was calculated, designed. She had been part of an experiment no one saw coming. At the state forensics lab, more footage was examined. Norah appeared older in each video. Her voice, once laced with innocence, grew flat. Her eyes lost the spark that defined her. In one video, "Can we go outside today?" "No, sweetheart. Outside is sick. We're safe here." "But I miss Mommy." "I'm your daddy now. Say it. You're my daddy." The final tape was unlabeled. Norah stood near the doorway, wrapped in a winter coat too large for her. She was taller now. Her eyes were weary, but not broken. She looked into the lens with a quiet defiance. "If someone finds this, my name is Norah Field. I think I've been here a long time. I don't know what year it is. I used to live on Finch Avenue. I miss my mom. I think Daddy's sick. He sleeps all the time. I'm going to try to get out." She leaned closer to the camera. "If this is the last one, I'm sorry." The screen went black. There were no other tapes, no records of her escape, just that voice. Fragile, but fighting. And for the first time in 30 years, hope wasn't just a wish. It had weight. It had form. It had Norah's voice. February 13th. In Jefferson County, Wisconsin, At a small gas station, a clerk named Joel Renshaw reviewed years-old security footage following a burglary. In a 2012 folder, something caught his eye. A young woman, expression hollow, standing near the snack aisle. A man beside her, hand on her shoulder. He whispered into her ear. She never spoke, but her eyes found the camera just for a second. Something in them screamed. Joel paused the video. The timestamp read May 19, 2012, 3:47 p.m. He picked up the phone. At 4:02 p.m., Detective Emery Pratt watched the clip in silence. The gas station was unremarkable. Just another roadside stop along Highway 26 in Jefferson County, 90 miles southeast of Pine Hollow. But in the static frame of old black and white surveillance footage, it became something else entirely. A time capsule, a signal flare. In the video, a man in his late 50s walked through the automatic doors. He had glasses, a short beard, and wore a weathered jacket. His posture was rigid but purposeful. Behind him, trailing like a reluctant shadow, was a teenage girl. She looked around 15 or 16. Her coat was oversized, her hair long and tangled, parted neatly down the center like someone had insisted it look nice. She never said a word. Joel Renshaw, the gas station clerk, had seen the footage while combing through archived security tapes for an unrelated burglary report. But one still frame made his stomach twist. The moment the girl looked directly into the camera. Her gaze wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. A whisper through the lens. A cry too quiet for anyone to hear until now. "That's what made me call," he told authorities later. "You see it in her eyes. She wanted to be seen." Sheriff Mendez leaned in beside him. "Zoom in." Joel did. Slowly, frame by frame. As the image focused, a chilling detail emerged. The girl's eyes weren't identical. One iris was a shade darker than the other, a genetic anomaly documented in Norah Field's original missing person report. Emery Pratt whispered, "That's Norah." They compared the girl in the footage to the last known recording found in the pink room beneath the farmhouse. The eyebrow arch, the shape of her nose, a faint scar on her left cheek from a childhood bike crash. All matched, all confirmed. Norah Field was alive in 2012, but the man with her wasn't Donnie Ray Schultz. He was younger, his features more angular, his posture fluid and confident, like someone who knew how to vanish when needed. He was taller, had a different gait. If Schultz had been the architect of Norah's original abduction, then this man was something else entirely. Sheriff Mendez stared at the screen. "If that's not Donnie, who the hell is that?" The question grew more urgent by the hour. By February 14th, with state borders crossed and trafficking now suspected, the FBI officially joined the investigation. Special Agent Lucas Dyer, a seasoned profiler of long-term abduction networks, reviewed the footage, the Project Blossom binder, and the evolving timeline of Norah's life in captivity. "This wasn't a one-man operation," he said, circling a name on the board. "This man didn't just find her. He was waiting for her. He's not just a buyer. He's a handler." He drew 2 circles on the whiteboard, one for Schultz, labeled Abductor 1994, and one for the unidentified man from the 2012 footage. A thick line of red connected them, branching outward into question marks. Beneath it, he wrote a chilling phrase. Project Blossom was never just about Norah. February 15th. Investigators traced down the original clerk working the gas station in 2012. Leanne Dunley, now living in Des Moines, remembered them. He was calm, polite, too calm. The way he kept his hand on her shoulder. It didn't feel like protection. It felt like possession. Leanne remembered asking if the girl was okay. The man smiled and said, "She's just shy. Doesn't talk much." But then Leanne remembered something else. A receipt left behind on the counter. She'd tossed it into a box of old receipts and forgotten paperwork in her basement. She found it. On the back, written in shaky pencil, "If you read this, my name is Norah Field. Help me. Please. The handwriting matched Norah's elementary school assignments. The message had sat in silence for 12 years, but it confirmed something profound. She had never stopped trying to escape. By February 16th, the scope of the investigation expanded. FBI analysts cross-referenced thousands of reports involving silent or withdrawn teenage girls spotted with older men between 2000 and 2015. A pattern emerged. Same brand of prepaid gas cards, same motels, same behavior, blank expressions, silence, compliance. In 3 reports, the man was described as wearing glasses, polite, paying only in cash. He never stayed in one place long. He went by many names, but one stuck: Kevin Willis. It wasn't real. The driver's license attached to the name was a forgery, but facial recognition confirmed it. Kevin Willis was the same man seen with Norah in 2012. On February 17th, a van registered under the alias was found abandoned in a Walmart parking lot in Kenosha County. Inside were 16 empty water bottles, a stained mattress pad, a broken GPS device, and a photo. A Polaroid. It wasn't Norah. It was a different girl. Younger, similar hair, similar expression, dressed almost identically. On the back, scribbled in trembling print, Wendy, 2006. Mendez stared at the photo. There's more of them. Pratt nodded, jaw tight. He's not just transporting them, he's replacing them. February 18th. They showed Dana Fields a still frame from the 2012 footage. They didn't show her the whole video. They didn't have to. She stared at the image for several seconds, breath held. Then softly, she said, "That's her. That's my daughter. Her eyes are the same." Her hands trembled as the tears came. Not the tears of mourning, but of revival. Hope had returned like a heartbeat beneath the surface. "She's alive," Dana whispered. She was alive. But where was she now? By February 19th, the FBI's command center resembled a war room. The wall had become a topography of trauma, red yarn stretching across states, connecting rest stops, gas stations, motels. Faces, blurry, pixelated, haunting, lined the board like ghosts waiting to be seen. They had 7 potential victims. 7 young girls, all between ages 11 and 16, all spotted once before disappearing. All silent, all compliant, all caught in fleeting surveillance footage with the same man, Kevin Willis. And Norah Field was the key. Victim profile on one Miss Wendy, 2006, Cincinnati, Ohio. Last seen at a rest stop on Interstate 74. A witness saw her eating from a Ziploc bag while a man pumped gas. Victim profile 2, Bree, 2009, Terre Haute, Indiana. A pawn shop clerk saw her try to write on the glass counter, BRRI, before being pulled away. Victim profile 3, Haley, 2010, Joplin, Missouri. Motel clerk noted her inability to blink for long stretches. She only spoke when prompted. A necklace was left behind in the room. The other 4 girls remained unnamed, but Dr. Monica Kerr, the FBI's trauma psychologist, studied their footage alongside Norah's. Her conclusion: these girls aren't just abducted. They're rewritten. Rehearsed obedience, memory suppression, language minimization. These weren't accidents. They were symptoms of systemic psychological conditioning. Project Blossom wasn't a crime. It was a program. February 20th, 2024. New evidence emerged from the Monroe County farmhouse. A laminated behavior chart hung behind a plastic sleeve. Princess Room Level System. Level 1, Quiet Time. Level 2, TV plus Storybook. Level 3, Outside Walk if safe. Level 4, Special Reward. Level 5, Camera Time with Daddy. 3 gold stars required to move up each level. Beneath it, written in childish handwriting, "I want Level 5 today. I will do good." Dyer stared at the chart. This wasn't just captivity. It was programming. By February 21st, the name Kevin Willis had been linked to motel bookings in 5 states, a storage locker in Iowa, a fake library card in Kansas. The real Kevin Willis? Dead. Boating accident, Arkansas, 1992. Every breadcrumb led to a dead end. Except one. A pawn shop in rural Iowa still had functioning surveillance footage from 2011. February 22nd. The breakthrough came. The man, Kevin Willis, appeared on screen, pawning a digital camcorder. On the counter beside it, a case clearly labeled Blossom 7-2011. When agents retrieved the pawned camcorder from the shop in rural Iowa, their hope was immediate. But the case was empty. The camera, long gone. Yet hidden beneath the foam padding, tucked tightly along the edge where no one would think to look, was a torn corner of an old road map. It was circled in red ink. Stillwater, Minnesota, was scrawled beneath it, alongside two cryptic words, Drop Site B. That single clue set everything in motion. By February 23rd, the FBI had mobilized. Satellite. Images confirmed a decaying grain storage facility on the outskirts of Stillwater, shut down in 1999 after a pesticide spill. 2 miles off the main road, hemmed in by trees and forgotten rail lines, the location had no registered owner, no active utilities, and no surveillance. It was a dead zone. Exactly the kind of place where someone like Kevin Willis could disappear and hide something or someone indefinitely. February 24th. The wind scraped across the open plains of Minnesota, rattling the rusted bones of the old grain silos. The FBI arrived at dawn. Agent Lucas Dyer stood in the shadow of the largest silo, watching the south entrance through binoculars. The air reeked faintly of ammonia and old chemicals. Behind him, a dozen agents waited silently, armored, armed, and ready. There would be no second chance. At 9:02 a.m., the breach team moved in. The front door was chained, but not locked. It was a warning, not a defense. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. Collapsed machinery, animal droppings, the silence of rot. Then they reached it. A makeshift room within the old office, walled off by corrugated metal. Bolted from the inside. A cutout hatch like a feed slot near the base. 9:17 a.m. The door gave way. Inside, a cot with faded pink bedding, a DVD player, 3 empty jugs, a camping toilet, and a girl. Curled up against the far wall, wearing unicorn fleece pajamas beneath an oversized hoodie, she blinked into the sudden light. "Are you the test?" she whispered. Agent Dyer knelt. "You're safe now." She didn't scream. She didn't run. She obeyed. When asked for her name, she hesitated. Then, Norah Field. Wrapped in blankets under a warming tent outside, she was checked for injuries. Malnourished, mildly dehydrated, no restraints, just scars layered deep in the mind. She spoke in fragments, about levels, tests, rewards, about other girls. He said if I passed, I'd see them. He said they passed already. The notebook recovered inside confirmed the timeline. New star, Norah, 17th. Final shoot, Wendy model expired 2013. Brianna failed compliance, reassigned. The last line chilled the entire team. Replacement located. ETA, 1 week, girl from Arkansas Fairgrounds. Norah wasn't the only one. She wasn't even the latest. That night, in Pine Hollow, Dana Field stood on her front porch when the black SUV pulled up. She didn't wait. The girl who stepped out was older, thinner, but those eyes, those were her daughters. "Mom," the girl said. Dana ran, barefoot through the snow, arms out, sobbing. When they embraced, the past fell away. Norah was home. She hadn't slept in a real bed in nearly 3,000 nights. At the trauma clinic, she lay on a clean mattress. No bolts, no cameras, no behavior charts. Still, she couldn't close her eyes for long. Dr. Monica Kerr began slow, careful sessions. When asked about the day she disappeared, Norah whispered, "He said there'd been a mix-up." He said, Northbriar, room 6B. That was my room. He gave me fruit snacks. By February 26th, the media was a storm. But the FBI held the line. No cameras, no interviews. Norah had survived enough. Dana brought her old stuffed cat, a strawberry yogurt drink, a photo of her childhood bedroom. They sat across from each other. "You like those?" Dana asked. Norah nodded. He brought them sometimes, not the first man. The second. She didn't use his name, only called him he. When she saw the photo of her room, she stared. He made it look like that, but he never got the light right. It was always too yellow. Forensic interviews confirmed the rest. The princess room, the level system, rewards, punishments, other girls. They failed, Norah said. They asked too many questions. She named them: Wendy, Bree, Haley, March 1st. In Iowa, a misfiled evidence box revealed another horror. A tin lunchbox. Inside, 2 unmarked tapes, a photo of another girl, Laya. On tape, she said, "My name is Laya. I live in the van now. Daddy says I'm being reshaped. If someone finds this, I didn't want to leave." In another, she recited obedience drills. "I am safe. The world is sick. I belong here." And at the end, the voice behind the camera, "You're almost ready." Just like Norah was. Norah confirmed it. She was across from me in Missouri. He said we'd contaminate each other. When she vanished, he said she got curious. In Kevin Willis's world, curiosity was a death sentence. By March 3rd, the FBI's profile was complete. Kevin Willis wasn't a man. He was an architect, a system: isolate, reprogram, record, replace. The girls weren't missing. They were inventory. And one by one, the ghosts began to speak. March 4th, 2024. Norah sat quietly in her drawing room, a pencil in one hand and the edges of a blank sheet curling under the pressure of her grip. Her sketches were repeating: the bus interior, the silo's window, and now a new image. A girl with dark hair peeking through a vent grate. Dana leaned in gently. "Who's that?" "That's Laya," Norah replied. "You remember what she looked like?" "Yes, I used to draw her after lights out so I wouldn't forget." A pause. She liked humming. He hated humming. Later that afternoon, Norah handed one of the sketches to Dr. Kerr. On the back, written in tight handwriting, "I wasn't the first. I wasn't the last." March 5th, 2024. With the Des Moines tapes authenticated and linked to Kevin Willis, the FBI expanded its task force. A national directive was issued. Active serial predator targeting pre-adolescent and adolescent girls using fabricated educational captivity. Operational span: 1990s through at least 2017. Current location: unknown. 7 confirmed victims, possibly more. A nationwide database was opened, any girl referenced in a partial sighting, any mention of Princess Room, Level 5, or Project Blossom. This wasn't just a manhunt, it was the unraveling of an invisible institution. March 6th, 2024. A tip from Colorado. A woman clearing her late father's attic discovered VHS tapes, unlabeled, and a black notebook. One tape bore a handwritten title: Princess Room Trial Phase. Lisa, 1995. The footage showed a girl, perhaps 8, sobbing, her hair tied tightly back. She wore a pink shirt, and beside her, a man. Younger, clean-shaven. It was Kevin. The footage predated Norah's disappearance. Lisa had come before. Each name, Lisa, Norah, Laya, Wendy, Bree, Haley, was a bookmark in a horrifying chronology. They hadn't found all the names, but now, with Norah finally speaking, they knew what they were looking for. March 7th to 10th, 2024. A sting began. An encrypted email arrived through a foreign server. Subject: interested in educational media. Private auction, March 10th, warehouse only. The phrasing matched previously identified language from trafficking networks. Educational media. room themes, compliance demonstrations, code for blossom tapes. The location, a rented warehouse in Joliet, Illinois. March 8th, surveillance launched. The warehouse was nondescript, gray, industrial, no signage. Inside, a check-in room, private booths, headphones, digital monitors, 2 loading docks. 5 men arrived over 48 hours, exchanging coded phrases. One phrase sent a chill through every analyst watching. Got anything like the Norah girl? March 9th. Facial recognition identified 2 attendees. Alan Robichaud, a teacher fired for misconduct. Gerald Fessler, former IT specialist at a charter school. Both with sealed records. No convictions. They had returned, unafraid, untouched. March 10th, 9:03 p.m., an FBI agent posed as a buyer. Inside a booth, he was presented a digital menu. Level 1, Classroom Obedience. Level 2, Princess Series. Level 3, Emotional Bonding. Norah, Wendy, Bree, Lisa. He selected Archival. The screen flickered. Grainy footage. Norah, age 12, sitting cross-legged in the pink room. "My name is Norah," she said. "Daddy said I'm ready now." The signal was sent. At 9:19 p.m., agents stormed the warehouse. Screams echoed, buyers ran, doors slammed, dozens of hard drives and tapes were seized. Labels, Laya transfer session, B3 Norah compliance version 3, top donor cut. By 10:41 p.m., 11 men were in custody. Among them, a foster parent, a school administrator, and 2 members of online educational communities. They had passed background checks. They had parented children. March 11th. Norah was briefed. She didn't cry. She only whispered, "He told me. If I did it right, they'd all want me." And they did. That's the worst part. Dr. Kerr placed a hand over hers. "You were never to blame. You were a child." Norah asked, "Then why did they keep choosing me?" March 12th. The scale became real. 386 digital files, 61 VHS tapes, logs, donations, audio clips, obedience music. A note on one file, Norah, best compliant subject to date. Repeat her routines for others. She had been the prototype, March 13th to 16th. Every alias, Kevin Nash, Darren Lewis, Harold Witt, was false. Each ID stolen from someone deceased. Each tied to a school, a district, a name. He lived in the spaces between systems. Dr. Kerr sat with Norah as she recalled something else. "He didn't always look the same," she said. "Sometimes he was Mr. Harlan, sometimes Coach. Once he made me call him Principal. Then came the name Eldred, a rare one. One that pinged a single result. Eldred K. Halverson, supposedly dead at age 2. But a photo from 1991, a janitor at a shuttered Montana school, matched Kevin's face. He hadn't just abducted from schools, he had worked inside them. March 16th. Norah dreamed again. "He watched me," she said, smiling, like he still thinks I belong to him, but he's wrong. The final file arrived March 17th. An image. Norah, asleep in the Stillwater room. Time-stamped, August 4th, 2022. He had returned. He had watched her sleep. 2 years ago. He was still close, still watching. The FBI relocated Norah and Dana immediately. Dr. Kerr noted, "She doesn't believe she's safe. Not truly. She trusts no space. She's been trained to expect the return." In her journal, Norah wrote, "They think I'm healing, but it's not healing if the wound is still open. It's just bleeding slower." March 20th. An IT agent cracked a drive. Inside, Norah, final. August 2022. 5 minutes. Silent. Norah sits, older, thin, smiling into the lens. She recites, "I am safe. The world is sick. I belong here." But at the end, her eyes shift. She flinches. Someone is there, behind the lens, watching. "That was the last time I saw him," she said. "He said, 'You're done.' He kissed my forehead. Then he left. But I wasn't done." She survived 30 years, but her captor was still free. July 3rd, 2024. The 30-year anniversary vigil was not a memorial. It was a reckoning. They gathered at Pine Hollow Elementary, underneath a screen showing Norah's photo at age 11, her last known image before she vanished. This time, she stood beneath it, and she didn't flinch. The FBI confirmed 17 tapes tied to Blossom. The total? Unknown. Kevin Willis, Eldred Halverson, remains at large. Norah lives under protection. She sketches every day, but now she draws them free. Wendy in a library. Lisa on a swing. Laya holding a balloon. From her journal, "Some days I forget he's real. But then I see a girl waiting for a bus and remember, not every bus is safe. Not every driver is taking you home." Final message from Norah. If someone promises you safety, but takes your name, your light, your voice, that's not safety. That's a cage. I didn't get on the wrong bus. He drove the wrong one on purpose. I'm not a victim anymore.